Hey everyone, thanks for joining me again. Today's video is about how to stay motivated for training at home. I find in my own training it's difficult to stay motivated day in, day out when all of my sessions are on the fingerboard at home. So here's my 5 top tips for keeping that motivation. Tip number 1. Don't get injured. Okay, this is the first rule of training. If you get injured, you can't train, okay, or you have to change the training that you do. It's less effective. Best way to not get injured, in my opinion, certainly when training at home, rest appropriately. If you're not resting enough, the volume that you're doing in your training is going to lead to injuries. Obviously, the volume that your body can tolerate is totally different for every single person, depending on your previous training and the kind of training that you're doing as well. So either work with a coach who understands the concepts of regulating your training to ensure that you're not overdoing it, or just run your training ideas past a friend who's maybe in the same situation so that you can bounce ideas off each other. If you do end up injured, that's going to ruin your motivation. There's nothing worse than wanting to do a session and planning on doing a session and not being able to complete it because you tweaked your elbow or your shoulder's hurting or you've injured a finger tendon. Tip number 2, set some goals. Absolutely vital for you to set some goals for your training so that you're training for something. There's no point training with no goal in mind. The goal doesn't have to be really specific, okay, and the time frames for your goals can vary as well. So I set some short-term goals, some medium-term goals and some long-term goals. So for example, a long-term goal might be red point my dream route by the end of next year. My overall training program is aiming towards that long-term goal. However, I've got some medium-term goals. So my medium-term goal might be my trip this winter in Spain, red point this particular grade or this particular route of this style. So that kind of dictates what my training is doing in the next few weeks to months. A short-term goal drives your training program in a really short period of time. So it might be a week, it might be 2 weeks, maybe a month. So for example, it could be by the end of this training cycle of 2 weeks, I want to have completed 4 finger strength sessions. I also like to set some goal routes. So what I do at the start of every year is create a tick list. And I just write down some routes that I want to complete in the next 12 months. I generally pick 5 sport routes, 5 boulders and 5 trad routes. And whilst I'm planning my training, I look at that list of routes. That dictates what my training is. It also helps me stay motivated if I just look at that tick list every now and then and I can see that my training is working because I'm working my way through those routes. And also know what to do in the next few weeks or months to work towards the next route on the tick list. Tip number 3, use Netflix and YouTube to your advantage. I spend most of my life on Netflix or YouTube at the moment. Not wasting my time though, that's the key, isn't it? Don't waste your time whilst you're watching these things. Use the time effectively, okay? And that kind of links into tip number 4 actually, but we'll come to that in a second. So YouTube, there's loads of good videos out there that just help maintain that motivation, whether it's watching pro climbers absolutely crushing their projects, or something random, you know, whatever you're into, whether it's music, cat videos, everyone loves cat videos, or just general vlogs and other content. Netflix as well, you know, there's no greater resource really for when you're doing a repeater session at home and you're bored, staring at the wall of your kitchen. Pop Netflix on, switch off, smash the session. It's really great for that, yeah. It's really good for maintaining that motivation throughout the session. Use those tools effectively. Tip number 4, be organised. By that, I mean make the time in the day to do your training. If you don't make the time to do your training, you're probably not going to do it. I know at the moment a lot of people are working from home, maybe trying new routines. If you can only squeeze in a little session and you've not planned for that little session, you're probably just going to sack it off and do something else and train tomorrow as everyone has done. Everyone's guilty of this, like nobody gets this right all the time. For me though, the key is plan your day, think about when you're going to train, what kind of training you want to do, and make the time for it. As well as that, putting your fingerboard in a useful place makes a big difference. Yeah, have all of your training equipment out and ready to go on your training day at your training time, because if your fingerboard is buried in the basement and the basement is damp and grotty, or if it's in your back garden and it's raining outside, you're not going to want to train. If your dumbbells and your weights are tucked away in the loft, you're not going to want to get them out, are you? So be organised, have that equipment ready to go so that when you find the time, you can use the equipment. Tip number 5, be realistic. Everyone is guilty of trying to squeeze too much into their day and also too much training into their plan. A lot of the time, gaining an understanding of how much training your body can tolerate in a day comes with experience or through working with a coach. It's really important to be realistic about how much training your body can tolerate. Be realistic about what you can do during the day. I'm going to put a video up about how to structure a training day. I'm also going to follow up with a video on how to structure a training period. Keep an eye out for those videos. Thanks for sticking with me. I hope you found those tips useful and I hope everyone manages to stay motivated at home. If anyone has any other suggestions of how you can stay motivated whilst training at home, please feel free to drop them in the comments and send me a message as well if you've got any questions or you've got any suggestions. Please check me out on Instagram. I also post lots of random climbing content on there. It's Mike Nolan_climbing. I'll put a little thing there. Also check me out on Facebook as Mike Nolan Mountaineering for any sort of coaching, instructing in rock climbing or remote coaching. Subscribe to my videos, it's really appreciated. Like the video, comment on the video and share it with your friends as well, because everyone needs to work together at the moment to try and maintain that motivation. More videos on the way, so look out for those.